All right, everybody. Today we're going to be doing the fuel pump module / assembly on a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now this applies for 1999 through 2004. The only difference you might have from me is the evap canister setup that's usually under here. Not sure what year they changed it, but it's either under here or right here, and luckily mine is up here. I think up in the hood is better because it can't get as rusty. Usually, like my other Jeep here, I actually had to redo this one, and you can see it looks halfway decent, but those things just rust and rot right out. So another thing too, since I'm doing this on the ground, I'm going to be removing the bumper, which I think is going to make this job a lot easier. You'll be able to get to bolts and lift everything in and out a lot easier. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I got for parts here. So this is the fuel pump seal, and I'm going to say if you have suspicions that your fuel pump has never been changed before, don't even mess around. Get you a seal. This is a Mopar seal, and the part number is right there, 5201-8808. And let's check out the fuel pump I got. So I bought this on eBay. This is a genuine Mopar fuel pump assembly. Look at that. Hold on, let me show you. Booyah. Here, the part number, just so you can see it. That's the part number. $69, I think, or just a little less for original Mopar. The guy said it's Mopar, what do they call it, overstock or something like that. I was like, why is it so cheap? He's like, yeah, it's just Mopar surplus. But look at that, got the tag and everything, looks exactly identical. Everything seems legit. Has the filter on the bottom. So I will leave the eBay link in the description. I would highly recommend to get original OEM Mopar parts. Don't mess around with aftermarket. Boom. And boom. And also recommended for this job, we have the fuel pump gas tank retaining ring removal tool. Basically, you can get it on the grooves, get it as loose or as tight as you want, and then you're able to turn it. You can put your socket in there and boom. So once we get to that part, I'll show you how this sucker works. There's the part number if you want it. One quick tip before you start. Let's go ahead and pull out the fuel pump fuse, which is, let's see here. Fuel pump fuse is 24, number 20A. So if you're looking up, look right at the first line of relays and then this 20 amp right here. So let's go ahead and pull that, and then we're going to run the car, let it run out of gas, so that'll depressurize the fuel system and run it out of gas, so that way a bunch of fluid won't come out and hit you when you pull the lines. I'm gonna go ahead and crank it. I'm not getting much, so hopefully, I think my fuel pump was getting kind of weak anyways. And I'm pretty low on gas too, so hopefully the tank shouldn't be too heavy. All right. Now, before we get started, let me just show you everything so that way you have a perfect understanding of what needs to come off. So you have these clips, those are in the body. Those are going to be the last thing to pop out. You have 1 and 2. Now these go through the fender well panel, and there will be a nut, a 10mm nut on both of those that need to come off, as well as right here, 1, 2. And then you have all the whatever. So actually these 4 are push retainers, and then you have 2 T20s here and here, and you know, that's basically it. It's just going to be a lot easier if you're doing this job on the ground to remove the bumper, because you don't have to finagle with anything. You can just get, boom, right in here, take everything off, lower it down easier. So that's why I suggest to remove the bumper. All of these bolts on my Jeep are going to be 19 millimeter bolts. And you have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 right there. So these 3 are going to hold the hitch in. So obviously let's go ahead and get those 3 out first. And then same thing on this side, 1, 2, 3. And then this side you have 2 bolts that are just for the shield. I would probably suggest, you might need 2 people, I'm not sure, but leave one of them kind of up in there, and then, you know, come over this side and get these like this. And if you guys don't have a Milwaukee, you got to get one. It's so awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lower this sucker down. I should be able to do it by myself. And just like that, it came right off, and I just went ahead and washed it down, so that way when it gets back up in the car, it's nice and clean. All right, so what I'm gonna start doing next is getting these fuel line hoses unattached here. Now, like I said earlier, depending on the year, you might have a lot more here. So, you know, the goal is to get all the hoses loose. You might have to get this bracket here if you have it loose, but there's a couple of hose clamps on these right here. So let's go ahead and get those loose. And then as you can see, those go right there. So when you pull this down, everything comes down together and doesn't get caught. And as you can see, my suggestion for taking off the bumper really helps, because you can just see a lot more of what's going on. I'm able to access them from this angle right here. Just a couple of flathead connections. After you got those hose clamps loose, this is connected to the pipe here, which I'm gonna pop this off here. This is the differential vent, which goes down and connects there. So I'm just gonna probably disconnect that and then disconnect that right here so it can all come off, and then these need to pull off. This is the fuel pump electrical connector there, so we have to get that unhooked. So let's go ahead and get those few things done, and then we'll move on to the next step. Just wanted to show you this connector up close. You're gonna have to push it. So it's gonna be like this. You have to push it out, and then you're gonna have to hit that, and it'll release that little piece right there, and you can pull it out. And then I'd suggest putting some dielectric grease on this before you put everything back together. If you have trouble getting these hoses off, I just kind of sprayed a little bit of lubricant up in the top, and then I took a pair of channel locks, and I just kind of grabbed it right here, and you know, you just work it back and forth, because you know, obviously that's never been off before, so it's going to be probably quite a task to get off. So just make sure to clean that up, and maybe put a little bit of grease on it, so that way everything goes on nice and smooth. And same thing for this pipe here. And something I just want to mention, if you're not replacing the fuel filter, you don't have to take the closest line off, which I do recommend replacing it. The only reason I'm not is because, like I said, I did it a month ago, so I don't see why I should have to. But if you're only doing the fuel pump, you just need to get the 2 that are further right there. Make sure you have some little caps too, because quite a bit of fuel will spill out, so you want to make sure to cap it off. So this one here, you push in to get off, It is kind of hard. It is a pain in the butt. This one here, you have to press these two suckers in and boom, pull out. And then this one here, you press these two and pull it out right there. This one's pretty easy. Let me see here. I find this one to be the hardest because I didn't understand it at first, but here, let me show you. So this one, and it might be easier for you to take off the brackets and, you know, get it like that, but so this one fits in there. Let's see, like that. As you can see, boom, bam. Thank you, ma'am. She's in there. And then when you want to get it off, you pry those two together and pull it out like that. So you want to pry the very ends like that. Hear that click? So with this one, you want to push it in here. You push that in so you can take your needle nose pliers or a pair of like a flathead and push that sucker in, and it will come off. And then to secure it, just make sure it's pulled out, and that should be on there pretty good. And yeah, like I said beforehand, you might want to take some blaster or some spray and just get up in there and spray everything really good, because if it's been on there for 21 years like mine was, that sucker is not going to come off very easily. Trust that. Alright guys, one quick suggestion before lowering the tank. Hopefully you don't have much gas in it. I did try to run it out as much as possible, but double check everything. Make sure all the hoses are unattached. So you got your, you know, fuel line hoses here. Make sure all those are unattached. Double check your fuel filter hoses. Make sure those are unattached. Just come over here. Double check, even though I don't think there's anything over here. Just make sure all this is all set before you start lowering. And then if it's good, let's go ahead and loosen. We got one bolt here, and then on this side we got 2 bolts. And then for me, I just have this as a support. And let's go ahead and get this sucker down. All right, got her down. Look at that. Is that a nest? Possibly. Yikes. Don't look too bad up in there. But now I can get to everything and paint it all. Super psyched. Anyways, I'm gonna get to just checking everything out. At random times I did smell fuel, which I thought was kind of weird. And it was just a very, very faint smell. So I want to figure out why I was smelling fuel. And let's go ahead and get all this stuff cleaned up here, because you don't want any debris falling into the tank. One thing I'm going to suggest to do before we get started, go ahead and pull this tank out of the shield and get the shield all sprayed out and clean, because I'm pretty sure all of them are dirty. Let's see if we can get this sucker out. Oh yeah, she's pretty dirty, so we're gonna get that thing cleaned out. But let me get this off and we'll get to removing the lock ring with the tool I showed you guys. So for these fuel line connections on the actual gas tank, as you can see, the clip is symmetrical, so it has to come up on both sides. So I just take this little screwdriver and I pop it up like that, and then you just kind of work it up, and then they come off. And just make sure to take note of which side came off of which side, so that way you just don't end up putting them on the wrong sides. So like that. Oops. Okay, so let me just show you up close. That's how they look. So you just gotta pop them up. So what I did to clean it was I just went ahead and sprayed it with the water hose to get all the gunk out of there. At least make it wet so that way when you get this ring off, you can take a rag and just get in there. But anyways, so you're probably going to need a block of wood and a hammer to get started. Because what I found was this thing, it's not as strong as it seems, but let me show you what I'm doing to get it loose initially. Because this thing's been on here since day one, you know, 20 years. All right, so get your block of wood. And then once you get it loose enough, you can use the tool, which, you know, I don't know how easy it's gonna make it, but or if you just want to use the tool the whole time, or the wood the whole time. But I think this way might be a lot slower. Let's see if she works now. Put it on top like that. Nice. And then probably just have to reposition it due to the hoses and whatnot. We're also going to be cleaning out this gas tank too. You may as well, right? We'll empty the gas. You know, take a look at it. It should be good gas because I run this thing. I've been running it low for the past couple weeks, like purposely. Even though this fuel pump is still good, I want to do it now while I have time. You know, I don't want it to randomly fail. On my other Jeep, my black one, that's the first thing that went when I got it. So, all right, let's go ahead and get this sucker off. The rest of the way, you'll just have to unscrew the cap, lift this out, and pull this sucker out. Woohoo! Oh, wow. I definitely see some dirt in my tank. And this strainer on the bottom of this pump, oh, it just fell off. Yikes. For some reason, I'm thinking this was messed up on mine because, like, the gas, I would fill it up and it would go to like a certain level. Like I would put like $5 or $10 and it would be like over a quarter tank or at a quarter tank, and then it would just go down to like empty. Like the gas light would be on like super quick. It didn't make any sense. So I think there was something messed up with this, and as you can see, let me get closer here. Look at that. It's like burnt on the contacts where it moves. So yeah, she definitely pumped some gas in her life. I mean, my Jeep only has 127 on it, which is relatively low. But yeah, she old though. Look at that WJ. That's so cool, man. These Jeeps are just, I don't know, man. I really like them. They just make sense. But yep, and then I'm gonna take the seal off and I'm gonna inspect that to make sure, because I was, like I said, I was getting some sort of smell, like gas smell, like very, very light when I was up under the car. So I want to check that out. Now what I'm gonna do is pour the gas from here out of the tube into a bucket and then into a gas can, so that way I can make sure the tank gets nice and cleaned out properly. So I found something else that needs to be fixed up too. Let's see if I can get this sucker out of here. Look at that. So we're gonna have to get this sucker wire wheeled and painted up. Nice. And then here we got the fuel fill. I painted that with this Pour 15 top coat. It's pretty nice stuff. And then I got all the straps and bars here for the gas tank, so everything's coming out pretty well, and the exhaust hanger. So hopefully by tomorrow I can have everything painted, and then this weekend we'll get to putting everything on. All right, now that we got our gas tank all nice and cleaned out from all the debris, let's go ahead and make sure this is clean here, because we're going to put the seal on, and then we'll get the fuel pump in, and then the fuel pump lock ring. So got the new seal on. Boom, boom. Just make sure to set it in place nice and easy. And that's what it looks like when it's seated. All right, next, let's get this bad boy sat in the tank, and we're gonna make sure these red and blues face on this little canal here, because that's where the fuel lines have to sit. So just take it, knock that sucker sideways, there we go, set her in just like that. And as you can see here, you got your little arrow, boom, just like that. And since if you use a new seal, you know, you'll have to take a little bit of pressure to set that sucker in there. And then turn it, I'd say just a little bit. And then we need to get the fuel lock ring. So make sure she gets set on there. You'll have to find the groove where it starts. Make sure it's not cross-threaded, which I think mine is. Let me see. And then I'll be using my handy tool to get everything back together. And then maybe I'll check it with the block of wood afterwards. But this thing is pretty hard to do with one hand, so I may have to put this camera down. But you get the drift. You just put it on the locks. Turn that sucker. So there you go. That's what it's supposed to look like when it's in. All right, so I got her all tightened up. I had to use the block of wood to finish it up because this lock ring goes on pretty tight. I dated it because I'm weird like that. And before I put it back on, which is going to be a little while because I'm doing, you know, I'm going to be painting the whole underneath and fluid filming and cleaning everything. But yeah, so I would check everything. Check this little hose, check these, make sure they're tight. I'm gonna have to cut this top of the hose off because it kind of messed up when I grabbed it with the pliers. So yeah, that's kind of sucks, but that's all right. We'll get that taken care of. All right, we're getting everything set in. Here's what everything should look like, just for your reference. I put some dielectric grease on that. I just put a little bit of motor oil on the ends of these so they can slide on. Now let's get the gas straps in and bolt them down, and we'll get the sucker up in there. Check it out. Nice and clean. Love it. There we go. Got the gas tank straps on and strapped in. Now we gotta lift it up. All right, this is what everything looks like when going back together. There's that. There's that. I added some hose clamps and a new hose right there. And yeah, looking all set. So let's load this sucker up. All right, so once I get my bolts in on each side, because these bolts here are just temporary because the hitch has to go on, but the front bolts, I believe here, this one and then 2 on that side, don't affect the hitch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the hitch just goes on these. So I got those in just to keep everything up, and then I'm just going to go ahead and connect my fuel hoses since I was right there. Those are just a Phillips head, and then we'll get around to hooking up some other hoses. And I'm going to leave the hitch off for now just until we make sure the car starts up and everything's good, because I don't want to put everything back together and then find out something's not right. So let's go ahead and at least get all the fuel line connections hooked up, test it out, and then we can put everything back. All right, let's go ahead, get our fuel pump connections hooked up. This is the evap line. We got those 2 fuel connections on the left, and then we got the good old fuel pump plug. So let's get those suckers plugged in, and we'll see what happens. Make sure if you undid your fuel pump fuse to make sure and go ahead and plug that back in. I'm on an empty tank, so I'm just gonna make sure she starts real quick. Booyah. Okay, now if you have a hitch, go ahead and get that sucker back up in there. I went ahead and did mine. Boom, boom. And then let's get to the rest. All right, so this is after the fuel pump install. We are on a full tank. First time I've ever filled it up. 0.1 miles. Let's see how many miles we get to a full tank, my boys. All right, we got the fuel pump all in and installed and hooked up and running, and she's running like a top. And man, just look how good that looks. Oh, I'm so glad that I took everything apart and I just painted everything. It came out, in my opinion, so good. And it's just hopefully gonna last me a long time. And you know, in the future, when I have more time, when I have another project Jeep, I'm gonna come in and redo it all again. Probably at some point gonna take everything off of this Jeep and just paint the whole body at once. And I'm gonna use that Pour 15 rubberized undercoating. Even though it's not like peelable rubberized, it's like permanent rubberized coating. That's why I like it so much. But see, that's what this looks like. My old gas tank shield came out pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's 10 times better than it was. The frame and all that, oh man, I love it. All right, so just a little recap. Make sure you get your fuel filter all hooked up. You might want to put a clamp here. I changed out these pieces of rubber hose. Get your hoses clamped back in. This, I can't remember where the heck that clamps in, so I'm gonna have to do that. Just double check everything, make sure nothing looks wet. I'm not gonna do the video on putting the bumper back because I'm sure you guys know how to put the bumper back on. Maybe some of you didn't even take it off. But anyways, I think that's it for this video, guys. I had a lot of fun doing this job. It was awesome, and I hope you guys learned something. Heck yeah, dudes. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.